As a chef, I know flavor doesn't begin in the kitchen. It begins on the land. And Westhome's nature-led Australian Wagyu is a story written in the landscape of Northern Australia. Cooking is storytelling, and Westhome Wagyu carries a story of Northern Australia itself. Raw, powerful, and deeply authentic. It's a testament to the passion and care raised in the rhythm of Northern Australia. I'm Chef Maylin from 88 Club in Los Angeles, and I invite you to visit westhome.com/Maylin to learn more. And taste a story only Westhome nature-led Australian Wagyu can tell. That's westhome.com/MEILIN.
From our virtual studios in Darmstadt, Germany.
And still, like always, in Camarillo, California.
It's time once again, ladies and gentlemen, for the Marketing Geeks. It is amazing, and I'm gonna say I want to just break it up because we had someone complain that our intro was too long.
I saw that comment. Yeah, I'm sorry that you think our intro is too long, but we do have to talk a little bit about how, Andros, what are you doing in Germany right now, and how awesome is it to be in Germany in
I'm crushing it, brother. That's what I'm doing. I'm crushing it. So instead of just talking over the music, I'm going to sing. So without further ado, here I go. Ladies and gentlemen, Andros Sturgeon, it's the Marketing Geeks. That's it. That's all right. I got. That's why I don't sing in public. But we do have a heck of a show. We have an amazing guest, and I am so thrilled that whenever we have guests, it just makes my heart sing. And this is a good one. I'm excited about it. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again, it's time for the Marketing Geeks. Hello, everybody. Geeks. But before we get into the big show, we gotta pay some bills. So let's do that real quick.
Trading at Schwab is now powered by Ameritrade, unlocking the power of Thinkorswim, the award-winning trading platforms loaded with features that let you dive deeper into the market. Visualize your trades in a new light on Thinkorswim desktop with robust charting and analysis tools, all while you uncover new opportunities with up-to-the-minute market news and insights. Thinkorswim is available on desktop, web, and mobile to meet you where you are. It's built by the trading obsessed to help you trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Yeah, thank you for bearing with us. But putting on this show isn't cheap. So the next our guest is he's big in Japan, and that is something you can't say about too many people. He is a keynote speaker and a best-selling author. Ladies and gentlemen, from Chicago, Illinois, I would like to introduce Ron Jacobs. Thank you so much for coming. How are you? Are you in Chicago right now?
I am in Chicago, where it is sunny and warmer than it's been for, I believe, 6 months.
Wow. Cool. Well, I am excited to have you on because you have quite a pedigree. And before the show started, you were talking a little bit about you've first of all, tell us a little bit. Give us your background, because a lot of our guests aren't as influential as you. Very few of them have best-selling books. Can you give us a background and tell us why, like, what you do and why you do what you do?
Okay. So I'm CEO of Jacobs Clevenger. It's an agency I started in 1982, which we celebrated 35 years just a couple years ago. My background is in direct marketing. So I've always understood marketing in a little different way than it was traditionally done through advertising. But today, it seems much more like what I've always done. So I write. My book has been translated, as I mentioned earlier to you, that my book's been translated into Japanese and Russian. And so I get calls from people around the world to come and talk. I have a kind of an other interesting sidelight. I work with post offices. There aren't a lot of people who work with post offices, but I've consulted with Japan Post, with China Post, with India Post, and trying to help them grow their businesses or transform their businesses or modernize their businesses to accommodate how direct marketing and direct mail are used in the 21st century. And I've worked with clients that are as diverse as insurance companies, big insurance companies like Allstate and Humana, and as interesting and diverse as a company that sells fireworks to consumers at retail, has about 80 retail stores for whom we build regression and shade models and target prospects. So almost all of our business is built on modeling, strategy, modeling, planning, and then execution.
So real quick, so you mentioned that you're doing work for all these different post offices around the world. Yeah. So when you say you're bringing them up to date on direct marketing, and I don't think we plugged the name of your book. I want to do that real quick. Your book was called Successful Direct Marketing. It's now in its 8th edition. You said you sold over 250,000 copies worldwide. And we'll talk more about the Japan story in a minute here, but I want to hear, so when you say that you're updating these post offices on direct marketing, are you helping them to create programs that people, like businesses, can purchase through the post office and then they can send their direct mail, or how does that work?
Yeah. So Japan Post is one example. Japan Post is trying to better look for profit centers because direct mail, even in Japan, isn't what it once was. So first of all, I help them sharpen their consulting game for direct mail. Here's how direct mail is being used. Here's how personalization comes into it. Here's how it's more data-driven, et cetera. Then here are some other profit centers that you can start to look at within your organization. So about 5 years ago, I recommended that they start to look more at packages because e-commerce was growing in Japan. And in fact, they developed a whole program where they were selling a lot of products to China, and they developed a portal based on some things that we talked about, which allowed them to e-commerce marketers to now package and send product to China in a much more streamlined way than it had been before.
Okay.
Yeah. So China, I actually worked on the first database of consumers in China. And if you think about that, who has all the names and addresses of people in China, or the most? Of course, it would be the post office. But they had never used that for marketing purposes. And I helped them to develop a way to add some of the demographic information that they didn't have already so they had the names and addresses, but they didn't have any census data or the kind of information we use.
So they're sitting on a gold mine over there. I mean, having everybody's name and address. Wow. So you got able to step in and take advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually created it's a case study in my book where we actually created a survey for the postman to give. They have postmen going to all the addresses, and the postman actually created a survey didn't create it. They answered a survey about every house. You know, is it in a good neighborhood, a bad neighborhood? Is it high rise, low rise? Is it expensive? Is it and basically backfilled all the demographic data that we would have on our database from census data.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting challenge.
Wow. So I want to take one step back because First of all, if you can define for us the nature of direct marketing, because we deal with a lot of digital marketing in here. So if you could just give us a little bit of history about direct marketing and where it's at this particular time, and just give us the definition of that for some of our younger listeners who may not even know what that's about or what a post office is.
Well,
what is a post office?
Yeah, what is a post office? I hear they sell stamps there still. The direct marketing has over 100-year history. It goes all the way back to the 19th century, where catalogers first started selling seeds and other products, and then Sears and Montgomery Wards became catalog marketers of products. Remember, there weren't as many retail stores in the 19th century or early 20th century. So direct marketing has its roots in that, and it then developed into what by the time of the baby boomers in the mid 20th century was a pretty good business of selling products to consumers. Consumers needed products. They were looking for things. And direct marketers started kind of selling everything they could. The idea behind direct marketing or ideas behind direct marketing are that we identify people who will buy a product. We capture information about them. When they make a purchase, we record the behavior. I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of what e-commerce is like today as well. So I have this long-winded definition, which is that direct marketing is the interactive use of advertising media to stimulate an immediate behavior modification in such a way that behavior is tracked, recorded, and analyzed and stored on a database for future retrieval and use.
So Ron, you talked a lot about direct marketing, and I had some questions about how direct marketing is being affected in the United States right now. I know that a lot of marketers are moving into a direction of personalization. And for a while, they had people had said that direct marketing is dead in the United States, but I think that it's making a bit of a resurgence. And part of that is because of the personalization. So I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit and what your experience has been with all that.
Sure. Direct marketing, direct mail rather, peaked in the U.S. probably around 10 to 15 years ago. There's no doubt about that. But surprisingly, our business has been pretty steady over that whole time. So I won't say we are doing as much direct mail as we were years ago, but most of our clients still use it. It's something, frankly, all of our clients are using because it still works. But it's much more personalized. And when I say personalized, we're using a lot of the data that we have to better reach people. And it's kind of become a thing where you talk about people-based marketing or human marketing. But the reality is the people who get advertising and promotions and direct mail are people. So they respond much better to relevant communications than they do to non-relevant communications. With variable printing today, we have that ability to now literally personalize every word of a direct mail package. I wish I could tell you marketers are actually taking that to heart. I'll remind you that you could personalize every page of a website or of an email, and I haven't necessarily seen marketers figure out how to do that. But we are doing a better job going from just using demographic data to even personalizing images. So we have a client that sells the GPS systems for automobiles. These are the systems that are built in. They work with OEMs. They only do the software part of it. The systems are already in the cars, but they do that. So we do map updates for them, and we reach out to people who own the cars and actually try to sell them a map update about every 2 years. What we were able to do in a direct mail piece, because we had the VIN number for each of the cars, a VIN number tells us the model, the year, etc. We were able to use a photographic asset and show the dash of the car, which it may be a different way of thinking of personalization than you normally do. But everyone who owned the car could look at that and go, "Oh yeah, that looks like my car." That's where I think personalization is starting to go, because all the personal data we have seems to be the part that consumers are most concerned with, and we have to be aware of that as well.
One of the problems with direct mail is tracking the consumer reaction after they get the mail to like a point of sale. How do you track behavior through direct marketing? What techniques do you use for that?
Well, we still kind of use a lot of the older techniques, which is to say we're really counting responses. It's one of the issues we have going forward with Google Analytics. We love Google Analytics. I love the source of traffic report that comes out of Google Analytics. But Google Analytics doesn't pick up any sources of traffic that are non-digital. So we recommend to our clients often to add a specific URL for programs, which allows us to then track back to the URL and says, here's the effort that was done as part of a program, and it's the direct mail. The other thing we do, frankly, most of our direct mail programs have landing pages now as response channels, because again, that's what consumers want. So the minute we can move someone from responding to a piece of paper to an electronic way, then once again, we can start to track it. And I think that's one of the big differences in direct mail as it's done in 2019. It is mostly drive to web, drive to landing page, drive to retail. Retail is still one of the big black holes, again, of tracking. But the point you raised and the question you asked, really, we're pushing people off to websites and landing pages. So we're able to then to track the behavior the same way you are digitally.
And what kind of open rates are you do you usually track? Do you have any, like, whenever you do a mailing, what kind of response do you generally get in the grand scheme?
It really depends on the category that we're in. In insurance and financial services, those response rates are 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 of a percent, very, very low. But for the highly personalized promotions that we do for a lot of our clients, we still see 4-5% where we're talking to customers, where we're talking to prospects, maybe 2 to 3%, easily doubles when you're talking to customers. So there's the better responses come from better communications, where we're talking, we know who the person is, we know what they've done, we know what they've bought before, and we're really trying to sell them more of it. On the business-to-business side, it can actually be a little bit higher because of the kinds of offers that are done. But on the consumer side, it's probably in the range I just mentioned.
Can you walk me through an example of a direct mail piece of marketing where it then incentivizes the consumer to then go to a landing page? Like, what kind of offers are you making through direct mail to drive somebody to a landing page? I'm just kind of curious if you can give an example of that.
Well, I mentioned, frankly, again, it really covers everything that we're doing, whether it's insurance. There are actually only a few places where we're not doing it. So Medicare insurance, they like to talk to an agent. People who are baby boomers may want to talk to an agent. So that usually is drive to phone. But again, not paper, drive to phone. I just mentioned the OEM GPS. All of that goes online, so that people can then order that product online. We have a client that only exists online. They're an online bill pay company that is the bill pay back end for 4,000 banks. And for them, we developed a whole series of life cycle marketing programs, mostly email, but we've started to add direct mail into that. Because to the point I think you made a little earlier, what we're starting to see is a little fatigue with electronic media. So again, this client only exists online. We're using direct mail to drive people online to either sign up or to reactivate typically.
So let me ask you this: what are the incentives though that you're using through direct mail? Are you giving discounts? Like if you go to this website now by typing in like the promo code on this piece of direct mail, you're going to save money. And also, can you speak a little bit about what you're doing on the outside of the envelopes to help drive open rates? Because I know like for years there's some companies that will send like a nickel in the envelope window, which I think is funny because I always take the nickel and throw it away. And then there's companies that will put like do not bend. And now I see a lot of these companies that are making their documents look like they're like official tax documents, but you open them up and they're like those fake checks, and they're like loan companies. Are you doing anything like that to help drive open rates from direct mail? I'm curious about that. And then also, what kind of incentives are you giving to get somebody to go to the website?
So all direct mail has an offer in it, and that offer typically has an incentive or guarantee or something to get people to accept it. That's a basic premise and a basic tenet of direct mail. So it may be nothing more than a percentage off or something, or a low point of entry to get started if it's a subscription or membership kind of program. So you're just trying to get people to maybe try it for the first month free or at a low cost. To answer your second question, though, we have started to work with different size envelopes to get people to kind of see what's inside of it. We personalize the outside of envelopes. We often test offers on the outside of the envelope as well as on the inside, so that we see, does that work? There's actually a name for things that look like government communications. We call that an official look. And that's been a common tool that's been used in direct mail for probably 70 years. And it still works. We have another interesting client where we actually send people a live check as the response device. And the live check has real value. It's a membership program, and the check is in the amount of, I think, the first month. Although we test that constantly. Is it, is $30 the right amount? Is it $50 to get people started? They literally put the check into their bank, and that starts them with the program. The back of the check then has the terms and conditions in a very small little area, which is all we're allowed to use for where they sign, and they say they agree to start the program, and that's how we get them in. In that case, we've used a bigger window to show more of the check, to show people that it looks kind of, it's a real check in there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we use a lot of little tricks and techniques, some of which, you could use in email as well, some of which, like a bigger window, you don't really have. Yeah.
Well, I will say the reason I'm probably getting so many of those official looking documents, or you call them official forms, is because it's tax season. So I'm sure everyone's faking government looks to get me to open them, and it's working. Yeah. But I throw it away after.
But that's right. And when you say it's working, it's not working unless you respond.
Well, that's true. It's working for the open, but not for the response.
But unless you actually respond, that's not it. And I'm not I don't love those programs because they trick people into the envelope, and I don't want to trick anyone. I want people to go into the envelope and actually go ahead and go forward with the order.
What a novel concept, not tricking people.
Now, Ron, is there particular sectors that seem to work better with direct mail than others? Like what is the business that seems to have the best results from direct mail?
I'm not sure if this is the business that has the best results, but insurance and financial services, credit cards, those are still the businesses that are the heaviest users of direct mail. Even though their response rates are among the lowest, they don't have a lot of alternatives. They haven't quite figured out how to get people to sign up for credit cards and actually reach people with credit data electronically. So they have a built-in problem. So they still do a lot of direct mail. And, I mentioned we work with some banks, we work with some insurance companies because they're still heavy users. But right now, the next biggest user, I think, are retailers who are using it not for response, but for drive to retail. And the reason they're using it is because it's different than electronic communications, which people are used to using for websites. So if you want people to physically come in, sometimes you got to lay something in front of them. And people still the Sunday newspaper isn't as big as it used to be, but there's still a lot of retail circulars in a lot of Sunday newspapers. Same thing with direct mail. So we see retail, financial services, banks still being heavy users.
And what do you see? I mean, because there's been conversations about how relevant the post office is in this day and age. What do you see the future looking like for direct mail? Do you think there's always going to be a place for it, or as people become more conscious about paper waste and everything goes more digital, are people moving away from that? Like where are we now in that, and where is it going?
We're kind of at a stasis. It's not getting bigger. It's not getting smaller. You were right to believe that people are just a little turned off right now by the amount of electronic communication. But what that means is people aren't responding to electronic communications as much. So direct mail becomes an alternative where people, can't are responding because they're not getting as much of it. We see millennials actually being heavy users of direct mail. That's how a lot of them get into the subscription programs that were very popular over the last 4 or 5 years. I think that's a trend that's kind of waning right now. But I don't really see direct mail volume going significantly down from year to year over the last 3 to 5 years. It's really been the same. There just are some marketers who don't have an alternative. I'll point out that right now we're starting to see the growth of CBD and other kinds of products that are literally prohibited from search and other tools. Facebook won't take those products. So we're starting to look at that. I mentioned we have a retailer of fireworks. They can't use search. They can't use any of the digital tools. So there's always some businesses that can't use those things where, in fact, I think direct mail will be a great alternative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even with CBD,
especially if you do I was going to say, instead of you were saying you send a nickel, if you could just send a joint to someone instead of the nickel, I think your response will be extremely well.
100% open rate.
Yeah, I may I'll float that idea to one of our clients. See what they think.
Well, I was just going to say too that with CBD, for instance, I have a number of clients that I work with, and a lot of the MailChimp and a lot of the email marketing platforms don't even let them send CBD emails right now.
Yeah.
Because it's still kind of a gray area in the United States. that might change in the near future, but there's only a few platforms that will even support it. So yeah, there is a market there for sure. And that was the same kind of thing with cryptocurrency when it was big, like a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever that was. Same kind of thing. A lot of restrictions on email marketing with it, but I'm sure the direct mail was still an alternative there too.
It is, and frankly, that doesn't give direct mail a better reputation, to be honest with you. But it is an alternative for marketers that are legal and are offering products that they can't market any other way.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit here, because I know that you also wanted to talk a lot about talk about data, and I wanted to kind of have you get into that subject a little bit, and I wanted to hear about how your business is using data, how you're tracking data, and I wanted to hear a little bit about that right now.
So I kind of made that statement at the beginning that we don't have any data scientists on board, but everybody on my staff actually knows how to use customer insights and trends and data. Every one of our clients has a data-related goal, whether it is based on response or something else. We're looking at business outcomes, and I think I said this earlier, where we kind of see marketing and technology and business coming together. If you think about direct marketers of 100 years ago, they were entrepreneurs. Even in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, many direct marketers were entrepreneurs. They look for business outcomes. So direct marketers always have been thinking business outcomes, not vanity metrics, not how many likes did I get. It's how many things that I sell. So that gives us a built-in reason to better understand data and insights. And we spend a lot of time combing through our clients' data. We build models of one kind or another. I don't do that. My staff doesn't do that. We have some modelers that we work with who will take our clients' data and help us mine that data and look for the insights and really try to understand it. I have a very strong feeling about data insights. I want data insights to be revelations. I want them to be paradigm shifts. I want them to be something that we're able to look at the data and say, no one's thought of this before. Show us something that really can make a big difference for this client. Double response or really make what we consider to be a much bigger splash than they have in the past. And as a result, we really look at the varieties of data that are available. And there's a lot of data. I mean, almost every customer has data. I know that we're getting into a world of AI and big data, but the reality is that most clients aren't even using what I would call the small data that they have, the personal information, the name, address, the behavioral information. When I talk to people, I say, look, we're able to now get intent data by looking at search and by looking at websites and how long the dwell time is. So we're kind of crossing over into that, but we're then mailing people based on their digital behavior as well as their physical behavior. That to me is where our business is going. And we spend just incredible amounts of time building models and targeting people because, again, we really want the communications to be relevant and we want to give our clients the best chance of a higher response.
Absolutely. Now, it's interesting because I think I'd mentioned before we started recording, I was mentioning that I was over at a conference. It was Social Media Marketing World about 2 weeks ago. And one of the speakers there, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he ran a Google agency out of Australia. And he was talking a lot about AI and how Google is implementing AI in their business. He talked a lot about how the search intent algorithms are getting so advanced that they're getting very good at predicting when somebody's going to buy even.
Yes.
And then he also said that something I found pretty interesting is that in the age of AI, the companies that have the best data and are keeping they're keeping the best records, keeping the best data are the ones that are going to win in the age of AI, because the systems are going to be able to comb through that data and create incredible insights from it automatically. But you have to have the data to get it to work. So I found that kind of interesting. So I think you're in the right field right now from what he was saying. So
I think we are too. I mentioned that we do a lot of digital work as well as traditional direct mail work. We do tend to do direct mail for all of our clients, but so many of them are also using digital channels that I think it's really harder to distinguish between the two things. To me, they seem almost the same at this point.
Now, one of the things that Justin and I always talk about is the rule of 7, that it takes 7 exposures to your brand through various channels before someone makes a move on it or does something, call to action. And,
on average,
yeah. And so, how do you think that direct mail and using this kind of data is essential in that, or does it have a more powerful effect?
Well, sure. The reality is, I believe very much the same way you do. I'm not sure if it's a rule of 7, but I can tell you that many of the programs we do for clients are what I would call life cycle marketing programs, where we'll create 4 efforts or 5 efforts at the acquisition stage. We'll move people from acquisition, then to onboarding or to welcome, then activate them after they've done that. And we're not leaving anything to chance, and we're creating 4 or 5 efforts for each of those specific life cycles. So we have one client where I think we have 5 or 6 different streams where we're using a kind of marketing automation where some of it's direct mail, some of it's email. Again, I'm 100% with you, but the data is what allows us to drive that. And by having the data, knowing what people have just responded to, we're now able to move them over into that next channel or that next series of efforts. So we think this is exactly the right way to go about marketing today.
So I'd like to know a little bit about your book, and can you tell us, because you said it's been translated a little bit and in Japanese too. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? But also, I'd like to get into the meat of your book and kind of break down exactly what you go over in the book that you have.
Okay, so I'll start with the last first. The book actually is about 600 or 700 pages, but there are whole chapters on data, on mailing lists, on offers and incentives. Whole chapter on that. A whole chapter on CRM and customer relationships. A whole chapter on building multi-channel campaigns. A whole chapter on business-to-business marketing, lead generation. A chapter on some of the other channels. There's actually 3 or 4 chapters on the different digital channels, on e-communications and e-commerce. We still talk about telemarketing. So we really get in depth on direct mail. There's probably 4 or 5 separate chapters that cover different aspects of it, from the creative side of it to catalogs, etc. And then of course research and testing as well. We call them marketing experiments, but testing is something that again we've been doing in direct marketing for years. We've always done what would basically now be called an A/B test. So when the person who the last translation of the book was in Japan about 4 years ago, and when the translator was going through the book, he called me from Japan and said, "I want to change the name." And when you sell the rights to a book, they have the right to do a lot of things. And clearly, I don't read Japanese very well, so I wouldn't know whether they changed the most of the copy or not, but I would get that they changed the title. And he said, well, I really want to change the title. That's why I'm calling you. And I said, well, what do you want to change the title to? And he said, well, I want to call it The Marketing. And I said, The Marketing. Let me think about that for a minute. And his rationale was pretty simple. He said, everything in your book is really what we're doing today in modern marketing. It's how we're doing marketing in Japan. And it's, I think, how you're doing marketing in the rest of the world as well. So it was really kind of a wake-up call, and it's actually 2 volumes. And I hate to make the point any further, but it's actually kind of Bible-shaped. So, here in the U.S., I'm known as a big advocate for direct marketing, but in Japan, I'm known as the author of The Marketing. And so there's a great reverence. And one of the firms I worked with there gave me really a high honor and a very unusual honor as well. They asked me to sign the front of a copy of my book. And no one ever asked for that. You always write on the inside so that it doesn't get smeared. And about 3 months later, they sent me pictures. And they had built a new headquarters and just had moved into it. And they had a conference room where this book was in a plastic case in the conference room. And then they showed me the name of the conference room, and it was the Ron-san or Ron Jacobs conference room. They call me Ron-san there. So it was the Ron-san conference room. And I frankly, I don't know anyone else who's had a conference room named after them, but I gather that must be a very high honor in Japan.
It sounds like it. And I think I was mentioning it's like you have like a shrine to you over in Japan. So you're like that's pretty cool. It's a very high honor.
Yeah, it really is. And I go there for 2 or 3 weeks at a time and do just a whole series of seminars on a lot of these very same things that we've been talking about today on the podcast.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm actually speaking in 2 weeks at a content marketing conference in Boston on AI and how AI is actually starting to be used. And one of the things I use quite a bit is text mining, because I really think understanding what words people respond to, what words they're keying on, is really, really important. Again, a place where I think direct marketing and digital marketing have a wonderful overlap. So, we're starting to take that a little further with AI into competitive analysis and other similar kinds of tools. I mentioned that I think marketers aren't using the small data they have well enough. So for most marketers, I think they still need to focus on that. But boy, big data allows us to do some very, very interesting things. And I'm going to talk literally at this conference about all the marketing use cases I see for AI right now.
So can you just talk about text mining for a second here? Because I don't think a lot of people know what that is particularly. Can you just give an explanation about that real quick?
Yeah, sure. We actually are able to go in and look at the words people are using either mostly digitally right now. So we're going in and mining the search terms, the reviews, all the places people are talking. All the social media sites. And we're trying to better understand on our clients' behalf what people are talking about as it relates to their brands. So text mining allows us to identify 20, 30 keywords that they're using or 20 or 30 ideas. It could be that, in fact, they're pretty unhappy with something. A couple of years ago, Olive Garden changed the way they were serving breadsticks. Breadsticks have always been free at Olive Garden, but somebody decided they were giving away too many breadsticks. So they said all the waiters have to now give one breadstick per person at a table plus one extra one. the waiters.
That doesn't fly. That wouldn't fly with me.
That's just not cool. Did they change that already? I don't.
So
that's un-American.
So text mining was done on Glassdoor of the reviews that the staff were giving to Olive Garden.
Probably death threats, right? Death threats.
Oh, the death threats. They hated this idea. It was the stupidest idea. That's what they were saying on Glassdoor. And using text mining, we're able to go in and learn this and go back to Olive Garden and say, hey guys, this is really, your customers hate it. And guess what? Your staff hates it too.
Yeah, because the staff is going to hear, the customers are going to complain to the staff, and they don't want to listen to that.
Exactly. So this is a real world example of how text mining was used.
So what kind of tools would you use for text mining, just in general, like or big data, for someone who's like maybe a smaller agency or working for a company? What kind of tools would you recommend?
Well, we will use just literally some very basic text mining tools. I'm trying to think of what tools we used, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But there's about 8 or 10 small business AI tools that almost anyone can use, and they're really not that expensive. I wish I could help you. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank.
That's okay. That's okay. We would love to have you back on when I don't have as many technical issues. But this has been really, really fascinating. Anything else you want to plug before?
Where can people get the book too? Why don't you tell people where they can get the book? And is it available?
Books, Successful Direct Marketing Methods, 8th edition, is available on Amazon. It's a few years old. I'll tell people that now. But the tools and techniques of direct marketing really haven't changed all that much. So you can buy it on Amazon.
Perfect. Yeah, is there any? So you're going to be speaking next week in Boston on AI. Anything else you wanted to plug here before we?
Let's see. That's in 2 weeks. Next week, I'm talking to a group on variable data printing, and I think the week after that, I've got a presentation I do on the essential skills every marketer needs, and those are all areas that I keep trying to reinforce today.
And where can we find you? If any of our listeners want to do some direct marketing, where can we find you?
www.jacobsclevenger.com.
Great. And that's awesome. Well, this has been, will you come back and talk again?
I'd be happy to.
That is amazing that you would actually do that.
We could talk more about AI. We'll go like full into the AI conversation.
Yeah, and before you go, tell me what are you most geeky about? What flips your geek switch? Anything. It doesn't have to be marketing related. TV show, books, music,
cars.
So
2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, my wife got a Tesla Model X.
Nice.
And we have a condo and a house, and our house is about 150 miles from Chicago. So we got a Tesla that would get us to 200 miles. But we've already learned that, when we want to go 300 miles, then we don't have an extension cord long enough. So, plus my parking space was 550 feet from the electrical room in our condo.
Do they have a lot of Tesla charging stations out there in Chicago? Because we have them like everywhere here in California.
I park next door to my office, and in the garage I park in, they've got them.
Okay, cool.
But I still wanted my own, so I put the plug in. And at the end of the year, I took delivery of a brand new Model 3, the performance version of the Tesla Model 3. So we now have two Teslas. This one does go 300 miles, the second one, and I'm geeky about those cars.
What do you think of the Model 3? Because I haven't actually talked to anyone that actually received theirs. I've heard a lot of people that have ordered them. So what do you think?
Well, 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. I had a Porsche before this. The Porsche I felt like I was one with. The Model 3, would I put my foot on the accelerator or when I put my foot on the accelerator, I just hang on for dear life.
Ludicrous speed.
With that, ludicrous mode. Well, thanks, Ron Johnson and everybody. I so appreciate you coming aboard. And we'll have a lot more questions for you next time. But you can get his book on Amazon. We'll put some links below. And wow, that was interesting. I can't believe that guy actually has listened to our show. That's amazing. He's a big deal. Big in Japan. He is. We got some geek news though. Oh my God, this is big. Did you see it? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, I saw it. You better believe it.
And we're talking about, of course, the trailer for The Joker. Let's do a trailer breakdown real quick. Starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Of all, Joaquin Phoenix has taken on the role of the Joker, held by a number of well-renowned actors, including the late Heath Ledger, Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, and now Joaquin Phoenix steps into the role. It looks interesting. I will tell you this. It is not your traditional superhero movie. It's not your traditional comic book movie. It, in a way, it's described as more like a character study, and it's like a descent into madness. And I mean, I love Joaquin Phoenix. I love the concept of this thing. The preview is kind of dark and gritty, and I have very high hopes now. The trailer looks great.
All I can say
I'm looking forward to it. I have no idea what to expect. If this thing had been directed
by David Lynch, I would have this would have been the movie of all time. But unfortunately, no such luck.
It's directed by Todd Phillips, who directed The Hangover and Old School.
Yeah,
and The Hangover 2 and The Hangover 3.
Now, one of the things that worries me most about this is that in an interview with Joaquin Phoenix, he mentioned that every day, like they're rewriting the script as they're filming, and every day he would get the dailies.
I don't think it was Joaquin that mentioned that. I think it was somebody on the staff that mentioned that. They're like, yeah, we're pretty much rewriting the script every day. We have no idea what we're doing.
That doesn't bode well. So, the biggest trouble I have with the idea of a Joker movie, though, is the fact that part of the charm of the Joker is that he's a mystery. He doesn't have a background. I think that to explain his origins kind of ruins the whole premise of the character itself. It's like when they did that with Han Solo, there's no point to it.
You just made me laugh when you talked about Han Solo.
Why?
Because that movie is so terrible. And I've already said this so many times. I don't even need to say it again. They gave a backstory to his last name. They gave a backstory to why he calls Chewbacca Chewie, and it just makes me laugh.
Well, it's just just that the movie was so bad they canceled all other like future Star Wars movies. Although I am looking forward to the Game of Thrones showrunners doing the Old Republic series, and that was just announced. So
is that a movie or is that like a TV series on the Disney streaming?
It's going to be a trilogy.
That's the one that Ryan, is it Rian Johnson or Ryan Johnson, whatever, the one that I've heard some people say they don't even like to say his name out loud right now, but that's the one that Rian Johnson was supposed to do. But then after everybody in the world turned against him for good reason, he got fired.
Yeah. Well, if you say Rian Johnson's name 3 times in a mirror, then Chewbacca will show up behind you.
It's not Chewbacca. What'll happen is Luke Skywalker will milk an alien, and that milk will get in your eyes.
Or something would happen. And with that, once again, another fine episode of The Marketing Geeks comes to a close.
And just so you know, because I don't know if everyone knew, when we were talking about data earlier, we're not talking about Brent Spiner. We're talking about actual data.
Like the actual AI robot from Star, like not the actor.
Yeah, exactly.
But the actual AI robot.
Exactly where I was going with that. We're not talking about the actor Brent Spiner. We're talking about the real thing. We're talking about like what would happen if Data jumped out of the screen from Star Trek and was in your living room. That's what we're talking about.
Or went to Congress and started talking about his business Facebook to senators.
Man, are we represented by some smart people.
And by smart, you mean, I don't know what you mean.
Pretty much the exact opposite.
I love this show. Help us out, folks. Recommend this to 500 of your closest friends. Leave a review. Give us feedback. We want to know what you think.
Give us more of those negative reviews. We like those.
Yeah. Well, Justin likes them. And with that, everybody, once again, we come to another fine episode of Marketing Geeks as it closes.
Marketing Geeks, stay classy.